I need you to use him. Okay? I need you to find it in you to start demanding what you want. This is a rather dramatic way to start an episode, but I felt that it was required for something of this nature. We are going to be talking about using men. Yes, we are. Because men are here to be used. Okay? You see the way that the dude bros who are borderline incels make their podcasts where they love to scientifically justify all the reasons that women are here to be their mules and punching bags. Well, have I got some science for you today? Now, according to my very extensive and peer-reviewed scientific research, I can categorically, confidently confirm that after my findings, which have been reviewed by many intelligent peers of my nature, it has come to our collective intellectual attention that men are in fact biologically wired to be used by women. And the science behind that is that for every one egg a woman releases once a month, a man releases gajillions of sperm. So, with that mathematics in mind, all of that sperm that is produced in excess represents that men are here to be used in excess. Their seeds are of little to no value. Their seeds only have value when they come in contact with a woman's egg. Aside from science, I think it makes sense to just use men anyway. No, but seriously. I often feel conflicted about calling myself a feminist. Not because I don't think I'm a feminist, but because other people don't think I'm a feminist. And the reason why other people don't think I'm a feminist is because the definition of feminism that we have been taught and we've all for the most part followed is one that I and many others do not align with. And that definition of feminism that I and many others don't align with is the feminism where you are splitting expenses with men, the feminism where you are always thinking about how a man is going to feel before you give him a reasonable consequence for his behaviour, the feminism where you, the woman, see yourself as equal to a man, the feminism where women fought so hard for the right to work and have their freedom, so much so that it makes sense for women to now be breadwinners, contractually and legally bound in matrimony to men who sit at home, eat crisp, and help the kids with the potty occasionally, aka stay-at-home dads. This is the material we are now working with. The men are not being put to use anymore. And that's deplorable. We need to bring back... What do we need to bring back? Because I was going to say bring back the nuclear household, but no, I think we should leave that behind actually. Because the nuclear household is the tradwife conservative prison that we managed to escape. We do not need to revert to old frameworks to create something current and modern that works for us and that benefits us. However, we can take elements. We can take what we need and leave what we don't. So the nuclear family is essentially man and woman. They have two sons, a boy and a girl. They have two sons. They have two children, a boy and a girl, and maybe a dog. White picket fence. And generally, it's that whole vibe of like The woman is cooking and cleaning. The man goes out to work, comes home, and he expects a warm meal on the table. And the woman is the primary caregiver for the children. And, so they lived happily ever after. Or did they? We know they didn't live happily ever after, but it's what they want us to believe, right? Now, when I say we need to take what we need and leave what we don't, especially quickly touching on this nuclear family model, let me tell you what we should take. I think we should take men doing the working. That doesn't mean women aren't working, but men are doing the bulk of the working. I think we should take... What should we take? I like the idea of a nice big house. But instead of it being in the man's name and the woman is there to just be the housemaid / pocket pussy, the house will be in my name and that house will be bought for me by my husband. Now, when we think about this nuclear family model and what's expected of the wife, it's not just cooking and cleaning. She's also expected to fuck on demand. I won't be fucking my husband unless he gives me a good reason to. And most of the fucking in question will be him sexually serving me. Will I have children? I don't know. Because I genuinely believe God put me on this earth to use men. God didn't put me on this earth to be a biological mother to a child. God decided that I'm going to exude my motherhood in other ways. God put me on this earth to radicalize other women, to get more from men. And that is a form of mothering in its own way. And I take that job of mothering very seriously. Now, if you are into astrology and if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you might have noticed that I don't really talk about astrology as much. I didn't stop caring about it. It's just that I didn't want to become that person who makes you roll your eyes when I start mentioning astrological concepts. But I feel it's necessary to bring this in briefly off the back of me saying that God brought me here to mother the girlies into demanding more for their lives. If you know about astrology, you might be familiar with the midheaven placement. I have a Cancer midheaven. Your midheaven, essentially, it's the way that you show up in the community, in the world, like how you do your big one. And Cancer, as a sign, it's very caretaker, very homemaker, very motherly. It's very committed to the maternal themes of life. And your midheaven points to essentially your career, what your career looks like and how your career pans out. Someone like myself who has a Cancer midheaven is a person who my style of how my career shows up is I've got a very mother vibe. I love to mother the girlies. I love to be, you see, the older sister who is a little mean to you, not because she's abusive or wicked or hates you, but because she's just straight to the point and she's had to have the worst version of mum. And you, the youngest sister, have now got a version of mum that your oldest sister has pretty much had to endure a lot for this version of mum you get to enjoy to exist. Does that make sense? And that's pretty much how my actual real life is. Like, I'm the firstborn daughter. You can't scare me. Nothing scares me. I'm a firstborn daughter to a Nigerian woman. So in the same way I'm a firstborn daughter to a Nigerian woman, I feel like I'm a firstborn daughter to the world. I'm not trying to exude some savior complex here. I'm just saying that I know what position I'm in and I use that position very carefully, meaning that I am never going to use my platform or my influence to lead young women astray. People, especially men, often say that I am leading young women astray. Men never care about women's well-being until women's well-being means they're not going to get fucked by women. That's why you see so many men suddenly become women's safety patrol officers when a woman like myself is telling women, actually, you should be more dubious of men. Suddenly, women are like, oh, you're misleading the young women. You don't care about young women. You care about losing access to women's bodies. So when I'm talking about using men, I talk about this from a perspective of it's the only way. It's the only way to make this work for you. You can't reason with your oppressor, okay? You cannot use empathy to change men. You cannot use debating and presenting facts to change men. You cannot change men. This is it. This is it for the foreseeable. They're not going to get any better. The negligible minority of the few nice guys who you love to cling on to and tell yourself that most men are the nice guys who you know in the minority, they're going to remain in the minority. So with all of that said, your job is to accept that. Doesn't mean you need to tolerate it. Acceptance is different to tolerance. I accept that men are losers and they are lust driven and they are always going to see women as pocket pussies no matter how much they pretend to be nice people. However, I'm not going to tolerate being a pocket pussy for a man. I'm not going to tolerate a man pretending to be nice to me because he has an ulterior motive. I'm not going to tolerate misogyny. But I accept that this is the best we're going to get from men. So what do I do with that acceptance? I adjust accordingly. And that adjustment looks like using men back. Use men. What do you want to use a man for? Look at the men in your life right now and think about what they are useful for right now. You probably are already using men, but you don't see it as using them because maybe they're your friends. Look, I've got guy friends and it's reached a stage with my guy friends. Yeah, there's a particular guy friend of mine and I wouldn't say we've gone through a bumpy ride. It's not bumpy. It's just that he's fucked about and found out, meaning he pissed me off. I gave him a consequence and now he's been trained. He knows better now. But I got a guy friend who, he's the one who pulls me to the side and he's like, Chidi, I don't like that you went through a situation like this and you didn't ask me for help. I don't like that you didn't call me and say, yo, what do you think of this? What's your advice? Because you know this is the thing that I deal with. You know this is the thing that I know about. You should have asked me for help. You know I'm going to help you. What do you mean you're tidying your flat and it's a mess and you're moving all these heavy things? I'll come and help you. Like, he actually gets at me for not asking him for help. He doesn't see it as me using him because using someone isn't always evil or conniving. Sometimes using someone is taking them up on what they've offered and categorizing them as the thing that you know that they're helpful to you for. So this particular guy friend I'm talking about, he's helpful. And you know what I do when he helps me? I use positive reinforcement. I'm very stingy with giving men compliments because compliments need to be used for training purposes. Meaning, when I compliment men, I'm positively grooming them to maintain that good behavior. Because words mean things, right? Just like how acceptance doesn't have to mean tolerance. It just means acknowledging this will not change and adjusting your actions accordingly. Grooming isn't always inherently evil, even though for the most part we know that when the word grooming is used, it implies where there's an imbalance of power and the person who wields more power in that situation is taking advantage of the person who has less power. But the other side of grooming is, for example, when you comb a dog's hair or when you do makeup on a man, that's called grooming, funny enough. But aside from that, we're going into semantics now. What I'm trying to say here is that the flip side of the word grooming can be used to describe when you are reinforcing behaviors that you want to see more of, when those behaviors are positive. So the way that I navigate that with the straight men in my life, when they do things that I like, I name the behavior. So here's how I do it. Let's say, we'll use my guy friend for an example. And the other day when I was speaking to him on the phone, I told him about a situation. Oh, this happened. Okay, so a brand, this is a huge luxury brand. They reached out to me and they invited me to their show for Fashion Week. You might know who this brand is because you probably saw me post it on my Instagram. By the way, the show was amazing. Anyway, this huge luxury brand reached out to me directly. I don't have any agent or management at the moment, so it just so happens to be that the person who is at the top of this luxury brand reached out to me directly and invited me to the show. And this is the first time that this particular brand has invited me to the show. This is also my first time being invited to a fashion show that is outside of the country that I live in. So that this involved me having to travel for this show. And I was in two minds because I was like, oh, do I want to travel for a 10-minute fashion show? But then I was also like, look, it's not the fashion show itself. It's the environment. It's the people you're going to meet, the people you're going to bump into. It's being in that atmosphere and soaking it all in. It's a symbol, a representation of this is the kind of place I'm being invited to because I deserve to be here. Now, the mistake that I ended up making, which I went on to find out when I got to the fashion show, was I bumped into a friend of mine and this friend told me that the same fashion brand that invited us both, this friend, the fashion brand covered his Eurostar business tickets. I paid for my own Eurostar tickets. Now, it wasn't like crazy expensive, but I was like, wait, I made the mistake of not asking them to cover my travel. They would never have offered it. Most brands are going to want to save money. And also, this brand was flying in all kinds of celebrities. So, you know, their budgets are going to prioritize celebrities. Doesn't mean they would have said no if I asked. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And that's a lesson you keep on learning in this life. You don't ask, you do not get. Don't assume that people are going to assign you your worth just because they see it. Like, people can see your worth and your value and not offer you what matches that. Not because they're trying to get over on you, but because you didn't ask for it. So they probably assumed that I was already in the country of where the show was happening. Because that can be a thing too. For example, if a fashion show is happening in New York, but I live in London, but I happen to be in New York when the fashion show is happening, you know, it might be that if I'm already in New York, I can just get an Uber around the corner to the fashion show. But if I'm in London and they're inviting me to a show in New York, I'm going to have to get a plane and a train and all sorts of things. So anyway, I felt really stupid. I felt really stupid when this friend of mine at the fashion show told me that their travel was covered. Mind you, I have a bigger following than the person who had their travel paid for. And I know it's not about followers, but in terms of what brands would prioritize on their budgets of who they'll pay for travel, I would have been up there. So when I told my guy friend about this situation, he was like, Chidi, you should have asked me. You know, I would have said to you, here's what to say to the brand. You know, because this guy friend of mine, he works with a lot of brands. He was like, Chidi, next time, just call me. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. Just call me and say, what do you think of this? How do you think I should approach it? He always just wants to help me. And because he has vehemently pulled me up and made it clear that he wants to help me, I don't feel bad about using him. He knows I'm using him, but we don't call it using. Like, I don't see it as me using him and like taking something from him, but I enjoy having him as a resource. And you know what? Men actually like being needed. So when I'm affirming him and acknowledging how he helps me, this is the language I use. The other day I said to him, you know what? One thing I really appreciate about you is that you are always in my corner and you always show up for me. I really do feel like you just know how to do the thing. Like, what would I do without you? You are, you're so helpful. And every time you help me, it just reminds me that I've got really good perception of great qualities in people. I knew I did the right thing by trusting you. So I like to name the behavior, which is you're helpful. And I like to say that, you know what, you make me believe I've made the right choice in seeing you as this type of person. Because basically that's the positive grooming right there. Because I could tell that he likes it when I say that. And it's not even sexual. It's just that like, he just likes knowing that even though I'm this really mean bitch, because even his guy friends are like, wait, you're friends with Chidi? His guy friends are perplexed as to how someone like me is friends with him. Not because he's a bad guy, but because they know that I have a strict policy when it comes to being around men. So they're like, what? How are you friends with her? And he always speaks so highly of me because I allow him to see a air quotes vulnerable side of me, but I perform the vulnerableness. This is what I mean by using men. Yeah, so how I like to do it is with this particular guy friend, I'll come to him with a problem. And because he knows that I'm such a like hard ass, and you know what the world sees of me, right? Like all the stuff I say and the way that I behave. Because he knows that I'm a tough woman, when I come to him, I'm like, I really need your help. I'm really struggling with this, and I don't want to disturb you, but like, I know that you're the only person who knows how to do this. Can you please help me? And then he'd be like, what do I need to help you with? What's up? And he just loves showing up for the job. He just like, I play this sort of like, it's not damsel in distress. I'm not in distress, but I love using. You see how men use weaponized incompetence? This is like the flip version of that. When men use weaponized incompetence, it's like you tell them to load the washing machine. They deliberately press the wrong button. The washing comes out spoiled. And then you complain to them about it. And they're like, oh, since I can't do it, I'm not going to do it again then. And then they just don't do the washing again. And you're left now to do the washing. Well, the flip side of that is like, I go up to a guy friend. I'm like, I really need your help. Whole time, like, I do need their help for this thing, but like when I approach them with like, I need your help, and like I act a bit cute, it it makes them want to help me more. And then when they finally helped me and done the thing, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my God, where would I be without you? What would I do without you? Men love being used. Don't listen to this propaganda. Okay? Men love being used. It's about how you go about it. Now, what I don't believe in and what I find really bizarre that people are trying to make a thing is using men sexually. I'm very much on the fence about using men sexually, and this is a very wobbly fence. This fence I'm on is not sturdy at all. Because what do you mean by you're using him sexually? I need to figure out how to arrange this language of what I want to say. But the first draft of the thoughts that comes to mind is, if there's no money involved, you're not using him sexually. He's using you. And remember, being used by a man doesn't mean that you didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying, he's using you. You're telling yourself that you're using him because anytime you want him to eat your pussy, you just call him, and at last minute he'll come and eat your pussy. And then you send him on his merry way on the last train on the underground. And yeah, you used him. The reason why I'm on the fence about that, and this fence is wobbling for its life, is because, do you think that men don't get something out of eating you out? The fact that you're letting him see your pussy, you're providing him with erotic wank material for free. Men need to earn the opportunity to be your pussy eater. I personally, in my personal opinion, yeah, and this is only a personal opinion, this isn't a fact. But in my personal opinion, it doesn't count as using him unless, like, you're getting some money out of this as well. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. The reason why I feel like I have to say this is because this whole, like, stupid feminism thing that has encouraged women to believe that letting men have sex with you for free is empowering has done a lot of damage. You see that stupid sexual empowerment wave that first happened in the 70s when the morning after pill was invented. And there was that, like, free love movement. Think Woodstock Festival. Think like hippie themed motifs and Volkswagen caravans and boho chic clothing and lots of people in a field fucking. Oh. And look, I'm not no conservative prude, okay? I'm a literal dominatrix, right? Like, I see a lot. I'm exposed to a lot of iterations of very sexual behavior, but I am incredibly tuned out of hypersexuality. So when I see people who are talking about, oh, I'm using men and I'm sexually empowered, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I'm also sexually empowered. So much so that how my sexual empowerment shows up is until a man gives me a good reason to sleep with him, I'm not sleeping with a man. I have full control of my pussy. My pussy does not govern my decision making. She does as she's told. I've trained her well. She listens on command. There's a lot of women who their pussy is governing their outlook. And then they just make excuses like, oh, I was just really horny. I'm not sure. Because there's something about men like us to believe that we are using them, but they're really using us. I feel like the ultimate way of using a man is taking what you want from him and giving him nothing of what he wants in return. But nothing of what he wants in return has an asterisk at the end of it, because if what he wants is to have sex with you, then of course, yeah, don't have sex with him. But not all men want to have sex. Hashtag not all. Not all men want to have sex with you, though. There are men who, they just like being around your energy. I have another guy friend who I like using him too. And is he a Virgo? Oh my God, wait, both of these guy friends who I'm using, they're both Virgos. And that's very telling, because one thing about Virgo men, yeah, they like being needed. They actually like it when you remind them that they are good at doing things, and when you remind them that they're helpful. They like being of service. The Virgo men are the pussy eaters of the zodiac if they could just get their act right. But like, they would be the main pussy eaters. So why I say that is because Virgo as a sign, it's the 6th sign in the zodiac, and Virgo pertains to being of service, maintaining order, caring about details. Virgo as a sign governs health. It rules the stomach, the intestines in astrology. Both of the men who I use, none of them get sexual anything from me, but both of my guy friends who I like making use of, they're both Virgos. And they both, now that I'm actually thinking out loud, they're both very similar in the sense that this other guy friend of mine, he better not be listening to this. He doesn't listen to my podcast, so I think we'll be good. And you know what? If he hears this, then I don't care because good boy. Let's do it again. But basically, this particular guy friend, I find him very endearing because he just likes to help me. Like, he will travel from the other side of London to come and help me practice riding my bike. Because basically, I have a bike that I got in like 2020, and I don't know how to ride a bike because I had a really hard childhood. I wasn't really allowed to be outside, as in like play outside. So I didn't learn fundamental skills like learning to ride a bike. I didn't have that kind of childhood. So now in adulthood, I'm trying to learn to ride a bike and it's really, really hard. I struggle with balance. I struggle with fear of how fast the bike is going, even though it's actually moving relatively slow. I really struggle with it. And this guy friend of mine, he's just so kind. Like 2 summers ago, was it? Yeah, 2 summers ago, I believe. He would travel from the other side of London just to come and teach me bike lessons. And we would be doing this for hours. Like he would get me, and actually we got somewhere with it. Like he would get me in the headspace of believing I can do it. He was so encouraging, and like each time I fall off the bike, he would just help me to hold the bike and I would pedal. Like he just likes being helpful to me. He just likes it. And so recently he popped back up in my messages because we both got really busy for like a year plus. We haven't seen each other in over a year. He pops back in my messages. And I started reminding him that like, wait, I miss our bike lessons. Would you still come and teach me my bike lessons? And he said, of course. And then he made a joke being like how he knows that I like it when men do things for me. And I was like, yes, I'm glad you remember. Like anytime men bring it up, because he's basically saying that he knows I like using men. And anytime a man says that, I don't shy away from it and be like, no, me, use a man, no. I'm like, yes. And you are one of my favorite men to use because you are just so good at it. You're so good at it. They love it. They love the positive validation. And this guy friend of mine who I'm talking about that helps me with my bike, he's very talented. He's just mad cool. And every time I hang out with him, it's like, aside from us doing the bike lessons, he's actually just a cool, fun person to be around. So I enjoy making use of the men who are in my life. I don't see any other way of having men around. Now, if you were to ask me, would I ever sleep with any of these guys? No. They can't afford it, unfortunately. I don't sleep with men for vibes. I sleep with men for a vast improvement in my life. Like the man needs to be significantly improving my life or else I'm not going to get aroused. And you can't sleep with a person who's not aroused. Okay? Because that would be sexual assault. When I talk about the concept of using men, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because they think that it's unfair. Oh, it's so unfair to the men that you're using them. It's so unfair that you are mirroring the energy that you receive every day as a woman. Because I don't see men calling it unfair that they use us every day. They use us as their emotional punching bags. They use us as a wall to talk at. Not to, but at. They talk at us. They use us for sex. They use us to help clean their house and meal prep for them. So should I feel bad in a world like that when I use men? No, because I don't even use men for things that they don't want to be used for. Like, my thing is, the men that I'm using, they are doing what they love. Okay? I got a guy friend who, if I need him to help me put a pole up, he will do it because he knows how to and because he likes to help me. Like, I got another guy friend who I got another guy friend who he just wants to help me with my creative stuff. And he likes helping me to like refine my ideas, and he likes giving me ideas of certain concepts I should consider approaching. And it's just nice to have that. Like, I just really like resourceful men. That's my thing. I like resourceful men. I like men who are just useful. And it makes sense because astrologically speaking, my Mars is in Virgo. And as a woman, your Mars sign, that tells you the kind of men you attract, what you're drawn to in men, how men treat you. So as someone who has my Mars in Virgo, and remember what we touched on Virgo as a sign, Virgo is a sign of being of service. I am attracted to men who want to serve. I really like it. I'm easily distracted when a man is just doing things for me. I'm like, wait, I could get used to this. Like, I just like the idea of, not even the idea, I like the reality of being around men who just want to play a useful role in my life. So that's what I'm attracted to in men. And usually the men who I allow into my space, who make it past the first security gates and now the second TSA screening, yeah, I allow them to show me how useful they are. So that's why by the time we even get to a stage where we're talking about sexually using a man, oh gosh, babe, it's going to take a while. I don't really see men as sexual beings. I just see them as, you're here to make my life easier. I don't feel like I need sex from a man. I feel like I like doing things to men. That sounds crazy. But yeah, I like doing things to men more than I like them having like sex with me, if that makes sense. For example, what I mean by that is, there was one guy that I dated, yeah. Was he the last guy I had sex with? Maybe. But from my memory, there was one guy I dated who... So, for context, I don't like giving head. I'm not against it. I just, as I've gotten older, I think it's degrading. Now, I don't think that you are degrading yourself if you are giving a man head and you enjoy it. I'm saying, for me personally, it feels degrading. Something about the physical act just feels degrading to me personally, because I don't think men deserve that. So what happened was, this guy that I was dating, I never told him that I find it degrading. At the time, I didn't have the language to articulate that I find giving head, as in sucking a dick, degrading. But what I did was, I figured out a way to make this man nut from hand jobs, because I didn't want him to go from, okay, we're doing hand job, to now him asking me to put his dick in my mouth. I didn't want a scenario where he could ask me for that. So I learned, because one thing about me, yeah, I know how to pay attention to body language. I know how to learn from observations. So every man's body is different, right? Just like how every woman's body is different. So what makes one man nut might not be what makes another man nut. But with this particular guy, I was with him long enough to know what gets him. So I just really got good at doing that. And that was where that's funny enough, that relationship was where I learned how to become a hand job assassin. That's what I'm going to call myself, a hand job assassin. I was I'm not even trying to brag, guys. I'm not exaggerating. I was making this guy nut from hand jobs in like 5 minutes because I didn't want to give him head. And you know, once the guy's nutted, like, you can't really, like, he's past the finish line now. That's it. Like, just go contemplate your life. So because I didn't want to give him head, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to just get really good at hand jobs then. So I got really good at hand jobs, and so I enjoyed the feeling of being an assassin. Like, it felt like I was just like it felt like, you know, when you're playing Mortal Kombat and it's like Kitana wins. Mwah. Like, it felt like I was slaying him. Because you see how this is how men talk about us. When men have sex with us, they'll be like, oh, I smashed her. Smashed? What did you smash? That's crazy language to use. I smashed her. So yeah, I slayed him with my hands alone. And so it meant that I never had to give him head because he never made it to that point. And I enjoyed that I know how to do that. And it's the Virgo placement in me where I don't mind serving. I consider that serving. It's temporarily serving, right? Like, you're serving someone else's pleasure. I don't mind doing that because I know what I'm doing. And I enjoy knowing that, like, oh, I'm doing something here. But at the same time, that doesn't appeal to me. Like, I'm not walking around looking for someone to hand job assassinate. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I've got some crazy skills, but it's not for just anyone. Like, imagine me and that guy who I told you I was hand job slaying. We never actually had, like, sex where he put his dick inside me. It was always just like, for the most part, I feel like, I'm entitled to compensation, you know, from that guy. This was years and years ago. But now talking about it, I'm entitled to compensation because I was doing more of the hand jobbing and he wasn't really doing much for me. But see, this was before I had my awakening of realizing my power. So I forgive the version of myself that was meddling with that behavior. But if I was to catch that, like, let's say I met that guy now in this stage of my life where I'm now at the beginning of my 30s. First of all, I don't think I would have even dated that guy because that guy ended up being he ended up being a user. Like, he was using me to get over his ex-girlfriend who was also a Sagittarius. And he made it very clear that she was also a Sagittarius. But now that I've evolved into knowing exactly what it is I want from men, I don't feel bad about using men. In fact, if they try to do a little gotcha and be like, I think you're using me, I'm going to be like, what, would you prefer I use someone else? Don't you like knowing that I find you useful? You don't think that's a compliment that I find you useful? Well, all right then. I'll leave you alone then. Don't worry, I won't disturb you again, seeing as you can't do it. Flip it on its head. Take ownership. But yeah, before I wrap this episode up, I just want to make it clear that if you don't feel comfortable with the idea of using men, you're not going to last very long in this economy. You're not going to last very long in this misogynistic world we're living in. You're not going to last very long in this patriarchy as long as it's men you're choosing to primarily partner with. Get used to the idea of using men. Stop calling it evil. It's not evil to use men, okay? These men are resources. I don't even bother calling men protectors and providers anymore. They're resources. A man is only a provider if he's providing. If he's not providing, he's not a provider. He's a resource waiting to be used. Make sure that every man in your life is playing a clear role, whether he knows it or not. Why is he there? Because if he's there just for you to have the, like, attention and the fun feeling of this guy talking to you, he's using you. Because if all you're getting is attention, what's he getting out of that then? because men benefit more from the validation we give them than us benefiting from the validation they give us. They use the validation we give them to build up the confidence to approach women they got no business talking to. Do you know that? So think about what you're doing when you're allowing these men to be in your space without you actually knowing why they're in your space. As someone who is a dominatrix, there are men who I've used for money, and it has been a very spoken thing that's clear. Like, they know that I'm using them for money. That's what they approached me for. They approached me to be used. There are men who I've used them for money. There's one guy, I used him for his money because that was the dynamic. That was the play. That was what he wanted. And that was what I wanted too. But I used him for his money. And then I asked him for some money for a situation that he created. And the amount of money I asked him for was less than what I've asked him for in the past. And he made a reason to say no. So I blocked him. And then when he wanted to get back in my good books, he didn't even, because he was blocked, he couldn't say anything. So all he did was the same account that he paid money into when we were in good terms, he just randomly dropped £250 in there. I saw it. He didn't even put a note, because I said to him, no, don't put any notes when you're sending me money on Revolut before you get my account banned, please. He just sent me £250 and I looked at it. I unblocked him on the social media platform where we were speaking on. And I said to him, double it. And he sent me another £250. And I was like, there we go. That's exactly what I thought. So it cost him £500 to be unblocked. Now, at the time saying this, he's now blocked again. Unfortunately. He will be back. And this time it's going to cost him £1,000 to be unblocked. Each time you fuck around, you find out. I don't feel any fear in losing out on this man, because I'm financially comfortable enough to play these games. I don't deal with men from a place of desperation or need. I deal with men from a place of convenience and selfish benefit for myself. And if the man can't do that, I feel no way about letting him go. Because what he can't do, I can replace that need elsewhere. Either another man will do it, or I'll do it myself, or I'll just find another way to get it done. Whether that's money, whether that's helping me with my bike, whether that's giving me advice or certain connections in the industry, I will find my way. One thing about me, I'll find my way. I don't think you guys understand what I've survived, you know. Astrologically speaking, again, I have a Scorpio North Node. So my life lesson in this lifetime is going to be deep transformation through very drastic changes and oftentimes painful events that really confront my sense of identity and force me to transform my identity. I have experienced so much in this industry. So much so that on paper, I still shouldn't be here. I should be, blacklisted. Yes, I should be blacklisted. Because I have pissed a lot of people off by speaking up about being mistreated. And those people really hoped that by now I will be a forgotten has-been. But no, I'm doing just as well, if not better, than some of the people who have management and who have agents and who have publicists that are shoehorning their name into magazines and current affairs. I'm out here still remaining topic of conversation by myself with no machine. And that's because when you have Scorpio placements, you are basically likened to, you see that joke people make about cockroaches when they say that when the great apocalypse happens and the radiation absolutely obliterates everything, the only thing that will survive is cockroaches. Because you know cockroaches, the only way to kill a cockroach completely is to literally set it on fire. Do you know that? When you kill a cockroach by stepping on it, first of all, you haven't killed it. And second of all, you're spreading its eggs because its eggs are going to be underneath your shoe. And then you walk around and it's just going to hatch more eggs. Very gross. But I'm likening myself to that level of survivability. You can't get rid of me. Only I can get rid of myself. So because I'm very strong and I have a high potency for survival of hardship, shit doesn't scare me. Guys, I cut my own mother off. And I'm 6+ years deep in that decision and I'm not turning back. The realest bitches on this planet is the people who cut their own moms off. I'm sorry, there's a correlation, guys. There is a correlation there. That is the ultimate epitome of standing on business. I be standing so hard on business, my feet hurt. I don't know anybody that stands on business as hard as I do. Guys, let me tell you, yeah, before we wrap this, there was another guy friend. Well, I say friend in loose quotes because he ain't my friend no more. He's been disqualified. His trial period has come to an end. There was a guy friend, yeah, who he fucked about and now he's found out. He was feeling himself too hard. I don't want to say too much because he's very easily identifiable. But basically what happened was this guy friend, I had no business knowing this man. Someone else introduced us both to each other because that person who introduced us both to each other was well-meaning and thought, oh, both of you have similar creative practices in common. You're both from a similar background. It would make sense for you guys to just meet and just like discuss ideas and maybe you could possibly collaborate. Because the person that introduced us both works in the creative industry. So she just thought, oh, like two great minds can like collide and let's see what comes of it. And I thought, okay, I'm open to it. You know, I'm in my year of saying yes to things within good reason. So we met up, 3 of us, and yeah, it was pleasant. I just thought he's cool. He seems like he's down with the shits. However, he was sort of doing that thing that men do when they pander. They're pandering to your outlook. And I'm like, you're pandering a little too hard. Let's put this to the test. So basically what I mean by pandering is like, you know those men who they come across women like myself and they're like, I agree with everything you say about men. Yeah, we are such awful people. Yeah, I don't see any problem with what you're saying. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to say all that, right, I'm going to need to see how much you are about that. It's not about words and telling me that you don't disagree with me. I want to see if you embody what I'm talking about. So this particular guy, he is, see how I'm a burlesque performer. He also performs here and there. So he invited me to a show that he was doing and it's a West End show. And when you are part of certain productions, you are oftentimes allocated discounted tickets that you can offer to friends and family and they can come and watch you and they don't have to pay the full price of the ticket. So he offered me a discounted ticket and I paid for my own ticket. Scheme. That was strike one. Why am I paying for my own ticket? As a man, you can't even be a gentleman and pay for this £30 ticket. I'm not short on £30. I'm not dying for £30, but it's the principle. Anyway, when I paid for my own ticket, I was like, yeah, strike one. Okay, interesting. The show was great. He did well, as I expect him to, because he's been in that show for years. And then fast forward, I invited him to a show that I was a part of. It wasn't my own show, just like how the show he invited me to wasn't his own show, but he was a key part of the show. So I was a key part of the show that I was in. And I invited him. I gave him about a month's notice. And because the date of my show, I believe it clashed with the date of him taking part in another performance of the show, of his show. He said to me that he wants to take the day off work and he'll just ask his team if he can get the day off work. And at the time when I invited him to my show, I hadn't announced on any of my social channels that I'm taking part in this show. But the tickets at that point were like more than halfway sold and it wasn't a big venue. So I said to him in response to him telling me he's going to find out if he can get the day off. I said to him, how many days roughly do you need to get an answer? Just so I can hold off on announcing that I'm going to be in this show. Because if I announce I'm going to be in this show, there's a likelihood tickets might sell before you get the chance to get your ticket. I don't have any guest lists, unfortunately. I don't have access to any discount tickets. I'm just hosting the show and performing. So I can't really hold any tickets for you. He said, give me 1 day. Baby, I never heard from that man again. He ghosted me. The day of the show came And the show went well, by the way. I smashed it. I did well. I enjoyed being a part of the show. But that was my last strike. It was already strike one that I paid for my own ticket to come see you in your show. You're not gentlemanly enough to cover £30 ticket. And now strike two was I invited you to my show. You didn't even have the regard or the respect to let me know that you can't make it. You just decided to go ghost. All right then. So what I did was when you block and unblock someone on Instagram, it removes them as a follower and it also makes you unfollow them. I did that and I blocked him on WhatsApp. Because the reason I blocked him on WhatsApp is, had it not been that this lovely person who we both know in common introduced us both to each other, I have no business talking to you. You don't need to have my number. Lose my number, please. I don't know you personally enough for you to have my personal number. So you're blocked. The reason I didn't block him on Instagram is because I don't care if he occasionally comes across my page. Like, I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to be looking at my page. But like, it's not deep enough for me to block him off everything. But the only reason why I blocked him on WhatsApp specifically is because WhatsApp is more of a personal messaging channel. That implies closeness. That implies access. No, you don't have the privilege anymore of having access to me in that way. You're blocked because you're disrespectful. And I don't want to give any impression that that's okay. I'm not going to accept a flimsy apology because that was a choice that was made. So this isn't even a man that is worth being in my space. Part of the idea of using men is knowing which men that are even deserving of being used by you. It's not every man who you need to use. And this particular guy, he wouldn't have been good use to me because he was feeling himself too much. He's, because of the nature of the job he does, his body looks a certain way. And he gets a lot of attention from women. And I love that for him. But unfortunately, men who get a lot of attention from women, they are very badly behaved when it comes to being a gentleman because they don't believe they have to do as much to be in your good books until they fuck around and find out. So as I wrap this episode, the key takeaway here is not every man deserves to be used by you. 1. 2, you don't have to feel bad about using men. Okay? Men should feel bad about not being useful enough to you because it's the least they can do. 3, sex with men for free. You're not using them. It's men who are benefiting. They're using you. That's how I see it. Yeah. I don't like the idea of letting men hit and calling it, he's my booty call. Girl. I would staunchly beg to differ. Please stop. And 4, decide what it is that you actually want from men. With each man that comes into your life, decide, like, is this man going to be useful to me? Is this benefiting me? Because if it's not benefiting you, if he's not bringing to you, he's taking from you, I promise you. He might not be taking your money, but he's taking your time. And he's using that time to build himself up to be better for a woman that he at the moment cannot attract. But with your help, he will be able to get there sooner. Be mindful of that. Men see you as a resource mine. So you should see them in that way back. And remember, don't feel bad about it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed that. Take care of yourself. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.